to be working with creating interface components. This is a great use of CSS. CSS, you can make a wide variety of navigation and menu systems, and they all are styled, well, not all of them, but many are styled without using any sort of JavaScript, and you can do it with straight CSS, and that's what we're going to be looking at. You're already familiar with, and you've already been using lists. Lists are basically the basis to create menu systems and navigation systems using CSS. Navigation elements usually consist of a list of pages that you can visit, or a menu may be a list of choices that you can choose from. So this is basically the relationship towards styling navigation and menus as lists. You also are going to go ahead and get the added benefit of the fact that if the user is viewing your web page on some sort of user agent like a cell phone that might not be able to apply the CSS styles correctly, or might not be able to display them at all, the XHTML markup is going to be meaningful enough to render the navigation in a way that the user is going to understand it and be able to navigate through the site. We're going to start by styling a set of navigation links that we might find on the left side of the page. Essentially, we're going to be building a vertical menu. So you can see here are my links right here, and these are the links for the sushi site that we were working on earlier. In my XHTML document, I'm working on something that's very, very similar. I simply have an unordered list that contains list items that are links, and these are already set up as dummy links. It's important that I set up my list using the A tag or links, because some of the styles that we're going to be using are basically rules that are written exclusively for the A tag, so we definitely need to have A tags within our list items for this to work correctly. I have set one style that just sets the font family to Verdana, so we're going to be building on top of that. And you can see that my unordered list is wrapped inside of a div with an ID of nav container, so we're going to be working with that. The first thing that I want to do is I want to remove the bullets from my unordered list. So I'm going to make a style for nav container UL. I definitely want to go ahead and only style the ULs that are in my navigation system, because I would not want to affect other lists that I might have, on my page for other sort of markup. So I'm going to address everything with nav container, so it isolates it to just nav container. So I'm changing my list style type to none, and if I reload this in the page, you can see how the first thing that happens there is the bullets go away. But because unordered lists are block level elements, they already have a certain amount of left and top indentation, actually, and the amount varies in each browser. Some of the browsers use padding like Netscape, Safari, and Mozilla, and others use margin like Opera and Internet Explorer. So I'm going to want to set the amount of indentation so that it's the same throughout, and I'm going to do that by removing the left indentation consistently across all browsers. And I can do that by setting my margins to 0 and my padding to 0 on my unordered list. So that's what we're going to do here. And now if we save and refresh, you can see that I've effectively removed any sort of left padding that was by default on that list item. The next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create or make my A tags be block level elements in order to achieve the rollover, the button type look that we want to get. All of my list items need to be converted to blocks, so I can do that by using a display of block, and I'm going to go ahead and apply this on my A tags that are located within the nav container. So again, I'm isolating any links, any A tags that are within nav container. And just so you can see what's happening, I'm going to go ahead and temporarily turn on my border right here. So we'll just make a 1 pixel blue border. If I save the page right now and reload, you can see how, let's see, I need a R in there. Border, not border. Okay, if I reload my page right now, you can see how I get a little border around each of my elements. So These are inline elements, and basically the length of my link is specifying how long these are going to be. I'm going to want to have these display as block level elements, so I'll go ahead and I'll set up a display and set it to block. And if I save and refresh the page, you can see that now these extend for the width of the page. If I was to expand or shrink my page, it's going to go ahead and fill the whole page. So now that I've done that, I've converted these elements to block level elements. Let's go ahead and let's get rid of the border. So now you can see the difference there. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll set a background color. So I'm going to go ahead and use a background color, and we'll just pick a background color of a kind of dark blue, and let's go ahead and set our text color to something that will show up. I'm just going to go ahead and use white. So now if I save and refresh, you're going to see that all of our menu items are now wrapped with a blue background and the text becomes white. We're going to go ahead and we're going to set a width, because I do not want my navigation to basically be as wide as my web page. I want it to be a fixed width. So let's go ahead and let's set the width, and I'll use M's, I guess, for this example. Let's try 8 M's and see what that looks like. And that looks pretty good. Everything's going to definitely fit within an 8M value. If we need to adjust that later on, we can go ahead and do that. I'm going to add a little bit of padding because these things seem a little tight right now. So let's go ahead and let's add padding. And we'll add padding all the way around, but we'll add padding on the top and the bottom. That is set to 0.2 M's, and on the right and left side, let's make the padding a little bit bigger. We'll go ahead and use 0.8 M's. So if we refresh the page now, you can see that that extends and gives us a little, breathing room, white space all the way around. At this point, I definitely want to remove the underline. If I have some sort of navigation system, it's going to be obvious that these things are links, and I don't want to have the underline on there. So I'm going to go ahead and change my text decoration to none to remove the underline. And there we go. And the next thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to set up a style for my hover, for my roll over, because I want these to look different when the user is actually hovering over. So let's go ahead and let's set up a style for the nav container, a hover. And all we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and set the background color. And I'll just go ahead and set that to a little bit of a lighter shade of blue. And we'll just leave the text as white. That should show up pretty well. So let's just refresh. Now you can see I have my hover state is activated. So it's starting to look a little bit better. I would like to have a little bit of space between my list items right here. So if I want to separate the different list items that are in my navigation menu, I can't apply the style to the UL or the A tag. I need to actually go ahead and address the list item. So I'm going to go ahead and make a style for my nav container LI items. And to separate these things, we'll go ahead and we'll set some settings for the margin. So I'm going to go ahead and type margin. And let's go ahead and let's just set the margin settings on the bottom. So I'll use 0, 0 for top right. The bottom we'll set a margin of 0.2 M's, and then on the left side we'll also use 0. So let's go ahead and save and refresh. Now you can see I've spaced these things out. They look more like more traditional type buttons. And pretty much this is the basis for a really simple sort of navigation system that you can use on the left side. There's certainly many variations that you can do on this, and we'll be looking at some of those as we go on. And we'll be discussing some of them. But if you want to create some sort of vertical navigation system, this is a great starting point. You could certainly play with colors, you could use, width and paddings, and you could insert background images, and you could definitely make things that were a little more dynamic and a little more exciting. But really simple, this is a great way to be able to create a menu system, a navigation system, a vertical navigation system that you can just use on your page, and it definitely looks nice and your links show up and it's easy enough to style.